Welcome to the Juggling Mind and Money podcast with Steve Rowe and Jessica Schlupp-Taylor. Steve Rowe is the founder of Lucent Financial Planning and an award-winning independent financial planner. He helps you to use your money and have a great life. Jess Schlupp-Taylor is a psychologist supporting people through change, challenges, and forks in the road of life. Together, they will help unblock the sludge in your mind, stopping you from achieving financial and psychological happiness.
Hello, welcome to episode 12. We've done a dozen, Jess.
Oh my goodness.
12 of Juggling Mind and Money. And I'm Steve, founder of Lucent Financial Planner and Chartered Financial Planner. And this is Jess, our resident psychologist, who helps our clients with and to obtain and maintain a healthy head. I was doing a Kylie impression.
Is that what a healthy head looks like?
In this podcast, we try and focus on being content. Well, not miserable anyway. And money is an important part of that. I think I've got that bit wrapped up, but also happiness is a state of mind. And that's where Jess comes in. If you're not relaxed, let's work out why and try to get there. So Jess, how's it going? 12 episodes.
12 episodes.
God, it feels like a year's worth.
Yes, 12 episodes. That's quite an achievement. Who knew that we could talk that much?
You know, and none of it be bleeped out.
I think we have had possibly a couple of bleeps, haven't we?
That's why I've only done 12 episodes in a year. But
better than 6 or 8.
I think we're
I'm
doing
quite
really
proud
well.
of that 12.
We're loving it. We're having a lovely time.
And we've got at least 3 positive reviews. So I would say winning at life.
Reviews are really important to us listeners and viewers. We have had a review, but I forgot to write it down. Well, not write it down, copy it.
Yeah.
So I can't read it out. That's a big mistake.
You'll have to search for it when you press one of your buttons.
Ooh.
And it goes to a bit of music or something.
I don't know how to do that. I get the fear with technology. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, listeners, today we are talking about spending money in retirement. And why is it so hard?
You have quite a few clients that struggle with this one. I think a lot of people might be listening and thinking, why is it so difficult to spend the money in retirement? Surely that's it, the easy bit. But truly, it is actually a significant problem for a significant number of people. So significant, we're doing a podcast on it.
So significant. We've got a whole episode devoted to why people can't do what everyone else would think was very simple, but is in actual fact really hard. Now, we all know someone who's tight.
Tight, yes.
Really tight.
The person that you don't want to go in a round with because it's never their round.
Short arms, deep pockets, I think. Is the saying.
I don't know why I suddenly want to say Donald wears your trousers. But
You mean Donald wears your trousers?
Yes, but I couldn't do the accent, and it had nothing to do with short arms, long pockets.
No,
but
completely irrelevant. Much like most of this podcast. So, Jess smiled then.
Back to the structure.
That's rare. So yes, we have people that are multi-millionaires. We haven't got a multi-billionaire yet.
No. And the way the world's going, I'm not sure I want them either. I think I'm happy with the millionaires.
Aren't they terrible, some of them? Depending on your outlook, this is not a political podcast, so we'll go no further. So we have multi-millionaires who've got lots of cash, lots of investments, lots of money in pensions. They've essentially got money coming out their ears, which is marvellous, but it can cause hearing loss from time to time, I think, because they don't listen to me all the time.
They don't take your advice.
And
when you tell them what they can spend, or you let them know the facts and the figures and show them all the data and the stats.
Yeah.
And still,
they can't get around him.
They don't live the life that they could be living.
Yeah. They're not tight, ladies and gentlemen. They are lovely people, but they just can't seem to spend their money on what they want. So this is an actual thing. It's not just an observation from me or you. This is an actual thing. It is known as the retirement consumption puzzle. Now,
it's a posh word. We'll call it
What puzzle?
Finding it difficult to spend your money when you stop earning.
Yeah, but like if we use the proper terms, it makes us seem more cleverer, doesn't it?
Done it. The retirement. This podcast is on the retirement consumption puzzle.
The retirement consumption puzzle, which means I think if I had the spare
that
time,
to me makes me think about what you're eating in retirement.
Well, no, that's what I was just going to say. If I had the spare time, I'd probably eat. Brilliant. Yeah. That is my key skill. Not yours anymore. So many retirees experience a decrease in spending despite having sufficient funds. And this could be they're underspending by 20 to 30% on what they spent in their normal working life.
Well, you said before we came on air that this might be the decrease in spending. Could be. It's not, because I'm going to argue with you. But you said it could be that you stop needing to spend on the convenient things, the instant things, like the takeaways or things because you have such a busy life and you have more time to cook or whatever it is.
Whereas, I think that is definitely a thing.
But I would argue that actually whilst you're working, you're not spending money. You're not scrolling on your phone. You're not looking, well, who am I kidding? Some people, when they're working, perhaps are still, searching for cars and things. But I would argue that whilst you're working, you're not shopping in the malls. You haven't got lots of time to be spending money. It's a bit like you don't have as much time to eat either if you're working. But when you're not working, it's actually, you've got lots more opportunity to spend money. You go out and meet people a lot more, hopefully, than you would have done when you were working.
Free time isn't free. That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
That was snappy, wasn't it?
Free time's not free. So they should, if you look at people's habits and people's routine, unless they're living quite a lonely, isolated existence, spending should at least meet the existing level.
So this depends what your hobbies are as well, doesn't it? So if you like walking, that will be, that's low cost, isn't it? Don't cost anything. Just
depends if you do the Solihull local diners walks,
where
you start at a pub and you end at a pub. I did that at the weekend.
Did you? Is that a real thing?
Yeah. So
can I join?
You could, yes. You can follow them on Facebook. I'm sure it's called Local Diners, something like that. Anyway, but yes,
I actually want to write this down.
Parking place, and you park and you do a loop of 6-8 miles, whatever it is. Lovely countryside, canals. Forests, woods, whatever.
And stop at pubs.
And then either there's 1 or 2 pubs on the way or you finish at a pub.
Awesome.
Winner.
Can I just say that I have been contacted by an American associate and one of their friends is moving to the UK and they like walking and drinking.
Perfect combination.
So Sonia, who we will get on this show actually, said, hey, you should meet Steve.
So yeah, walking is a cheap activity as long as it's not followed by eating out.
No.
Or drinking out.
No. So walking's low cost. There's a lot of low cost things that are actually really good for you, aren't they?
Yeah.
If you like skiing.
Do you ski?
Do you ski? Which we've also just been discussing before we come on air, to use Jess's parlance. Have you noticed, everybody, how she started using these terms like she's a newsreader on BBC One and not stuck in our small office with me?
I'm professional.
You are, darling. You are.
Yeah, we did talk about skiing. That's a good way to spend money.
Well, that's expensive.
It is very expensive.
Is that why people like to do it every day when they go on holiday and not like I thought, where you just do it a couple of times?
Yeah, because you went skiing and you weren't prepared to ski every day. You just thought it was a pick and choose. It's a bit like, do I dip my toe in the swimming pool when I go on my holiday or not?
Yeah.
No. Skiing is a thing, every day.
Yeah.
First lift, last lift. Oh, it's a tongue twister.
Why, aye. First lift, last lift.
Oh. Yeah, I can't say it quickly. No, I'm not even going to attempt it because I'll just spit on the microphone.
Jessica. So, yes, that is true. Skiing is for every day when you're on skiing holiday and not as I thought, which is interesting. So anyway, spending in retirement, we want to look at why is this a difficulty for some people?
Yeah.
It is definitely more of a difficulty than for those that overspend in retirement. way more, just in the number of people
Oh, it
we meet.
happens more than people that overspend. Yeah,
Yeah.
underspenders are more prevalent than overspenders.
And I do wonder if this is just my experience within a financial planning company where people be more worried about their money, so they would use us, or than overspenders who might be maybe embarrassed to come, or something like that, or if it is a general statistic.
I think, well, I don't know the stats about it, but I would assume actually it's probably quite nationwide, because the psychology of spending comes into, and psychology around money comes into practice from actually what goes on in your childhood.
Yeah.
I know as a psychologist, that's our rollout line. It's because of your childhood.
What did your mother do?
It's not actually necessarily what your mum and dad did, although that's part of it. It's what's happening in the news. It's what's happening in the markets in your childhood. Depends on how you feel about various investments and things as you grow older. But also, if you think throughout your life, the media, all the messages that you are sent, it's about saving your money, preparing for the future, making sure that you've got an income for life. There are obviously the people that say you only live once, and then tend not to have the pot of money for their retirement.
They usually say you only live once. Woohoo! As they go off to do something.
But yes, I think the messaging that comes through in our development is very much ingrained into us. Keep hold of your money, be careful with it. And people that have planned for retirement and so therefore have a nice little generous savings pot do find it more difficult, because they've always been programmed to look after their money, to earn money, to put it aside, to make wise investments. And so suddenly you're telling me to spend money that I've always been put away. And it goes against every message that they've told themselves for 50 years.
So this is a generational thing, I think. So those that, have you heard of the silent generation?
Come on.
Well, of course
I was going to go silent.
Generation. They just don't make a peep. So those were the people born in the 20s and 30s, I think, which obviously not many left now. But during the Depression, and then obviously with the war, people grew up on rationing. So the boomers, they're used to saving and
being careful.
Being careful. Whereas people that we encounter that were maybe sort of grew up in the 60s, early 70s, they're a bit more freer, free love baby and all that.
Yeah.
So a bit freer with their money. So
it really does depend on what's happened in your childhood and how you've grown up.
It's interesting, isn't it, how we're shaped. What else do you think people are worried about?
I think depending on what's happening in the news, and obviously over the past few years, there's been quite a lot of volatility, stock markets and things like that.
Interestingly,
some of the trade things and the jobs and the
that isn't true, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, the stock markets haven't been particularly volatile.
No, they've been quite a lot flatter than normal over the last couple of years, but
it feels like it, because what's being presented on the news, because actually how we behave is based on feelings, not data and facts. And it feels like the Ukraine, the Russia war, the wars that are going on, there just feels like there's a lot of volatility.
It is.
And I think because of that, I've heard quite a few people when I speak to them about, not financial planning because I don't do that, but about finances and retirement, they've said, we're really worried because what happens if everything tanks and all my investments aren't worth anything in 2 years' time and I've spent X amount, I'd prefer to be careful now. So then I'm okay if it all goes wrong.
So fear driven by the media.
The what if. What if? What if this? What if that?
So first thing I'd say to that is don't live your life based on what's in the media.
Mm-hmm.
Because what makes the media, the news, is, person gets ripped off, loses all his pension money.
Yes.
That's unusual.
Clickbait, those are the exceptions.
It's scary. Doesn't really happen that much. Does happen, sadly, because there's horrendous people out there. Person saves diligently and has a lovely time and makes sensible decisions and lives a comfortable retirement. That is well boring.
Yeah, does not make
I'm
the
bored
news.
just talking about it.
99% of people that make sensible decisions guided by sensible people with sensible investment. It's not quite as exciting, is it?
Oh, God, it's dreary. But it's brilliant when you encounter it and you find out what they've actually been up to, how they've used that money and the lovely time they've had.
When they can get their head around the fear of losing money, the fear of not having enough, the what if. And anxiety does mean that we're too focused on living in the future and we're not spending enough time living in the now.
That's it. So the future is always going to be unknown on account that it is the future. That's right. But also, we worry about what if it all goes wrong? Kind of, what if it all goes right?
But also, my understanding, and this is where you come in, Steve, is that your posh algorithms and things cover off as many bases as is possible.
Well, we do stress test over like 100 odd years.
Yes.
So hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of scenarios.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of
hundreds and
scenarios.
hundreds and hundreds.
Exactly. So actually, most scenarios have been put through the mill.
Well, yeah, you know.
All those what ifs that have gone through someone's head, they have been put through.
So, for example, we test through the First World War, the Spanish flu, the Roaring Twenties and the Depression, and the Second World War. That's some bad stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, that is pretty bad stuff.
Yeah.
So if we stress tested around that...
And it was all right then, you might be all right, assuming that happens.
Yeah, because that loss of financial security, we can get rid of that fear if they believe us. How do we make people feel comfortable? How do we get them to get rid of that anxiety? I think we're covering that off in a bit, aren't we?
So let me ask you that question, Jessica.
Okay.
People are anxious. Some people are incredibly anxious about this.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I do put a lot of effort in with them. And some people need regular top-ups. That might be a monthly, hey, look, things are okay, despite what's in the news. A monthly thing. Maybe need regular top-ups of my anxiety.
When you say top-ups, you mean reassurance?
Yeah, I'm the top-up.
One of the problems with reassurance, just as an FYI, is that if somebody asks you a question and keeps coming back to you for reassurance, that's a learned habit, so they will never learn to self-soothe or come up with their own intrinsic arguments why not. Basically, they have their worry monster, and rather than being able to use their own brain to put that worry monster to bed, obviously adult talk here, worry monster to bed, is that they look extrinsically, so they're looking to you for the reassurance, and then they go, oh, okay, yeah, because Steve said so. Whereas actually anxiety doesn't have a rational base. You've already gone through things, you've done the year plan, perhaps you've done a 6-month plan, but to do it on a regular basis and to take those phone calls, although it's lovely customer service and you make them feel all warm and fluffy, it's not helping their mental state, because all you're doing is saying to their brain, yes, you were right to worry, and here's the reasons why, we can put it to bed and you don't need to worry.
That could be true with some people. It definitely is true, because I'm thinking of them right now. But I do find a lot of people that once you've done that for a bit, they do learn it and it becomes okay. And some come back and say, this is happening. Before it used to really worry me. Now I think you will say this and this is why. And then I say that and show them why. And they're happy. So that is weaned off.
You're practicing and weaning them off. Okay, yeah.
But some, they just need it and they're never going to change. How can we change them, if that is possible, to help with their worry monster?
Part of it is that they have to want to change,
or
and
change
it has to come across as a problem to them. I think a lot of people won't see it as a problem. They'll see it as a perfectly natural reaction, and there are certain elements of making sure that your financial future is looked after, perfectly good, helpful, unhelpful, and I talk about helpful, unhelpful all the time. But there's those people that have gone into unhelpful. First of all, they need to recognise that it's unhelpful. I'm thinking about the thoughts too much, they're intrusive, they are starting to impact how I spend my money, how I act. I can't make a decision without speaking to my financial advisor, those sorts of things. It's not particularly helpful. You're wasting your time. I don't mean your time, Steve, because, you love looking after your customers, but they're wasting their own time reaching out, wanting that reassurance, getting permission. They're not in control of their spending or their money or their mind. So number one is recognizing that, is this an issue or not? Are the thoughts that I'm having impacting my behaviours? And if they are in a negative way, then it's time to think, oh, what can I do? When we think about what we can do, there's lots and lots of patterns. One of them's really simple, and it's like taking your brain to the gym.
Right.
And it's just practicing noting something is an unhelpful thought and saying, unhelpful. And you can do that in many ways. You can do it in your head. Most of the time it's more impactful if we write it down. So perhaps write down the concerns you've got about money, the what ifs, the what ifs, the what ifs.
So tell me about this, right? So I'm worried about something in particular.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to
I've
be
got something in
money.
my tooth.
Oh, I've had that problem.
Sorry, I was concerned it was on camera.
Don't watch that,
It wasn't.
ladies and gentlemen. If someone, I don't like it when people are worried about stuff. Full stop. Doesn't have to be money. So if we can take that away somehow, or help them take it away.
Yeah.
How does that help? Writing it down.
Writing in our head has the ability to make mountains out of molehills. We don't have the ability to, when it's in our head, we don't necessarily have the ability easily to see whether something is rational, irrational, helpful or unhelpful. But when you write it down, then it gives it a different perspective. It's like being able to step outside of yourself and look at things in black and white. So it makes it less emotional and it makes you more rational about reading it. So if you said, what if there was World War III and I ended up with no money?
Yeah.
Then you might write that down. And I would advise then that when they're in a good space, cup of tea, nice, relaxed, whatever it is, they would then sit there and they would write the answer to that. Actually, whether it be Steve says, or I've read up on this, and if this happens, the stress testing's been done on these three things, the logical, the rational response to that. So therefore, do I need to think about this thought again? No, I don't. I've ticked that off. By the time they've written a lot of their anxieties down, and this isn't just for money, this can be for anything, but we're on money, so that's where we're going to, by the time they've written down a week's worth of money worries and written in when they're in a good space, a perfectly logical, rational response to it, then instead of having to write it down again, they can just flick through their notebook and go, oh yeah, there's that thought. That's I've marked that as unhelpful, so I don't need to do anything.
And that works as like a salve.
Yeah,
on,
because then they're learning, they're training their brain to recognise then what's helpful, what's not, what's the response to that. Actually, this is the response, so I don't need to think about it. If you write something down and it's a helpful thought, that means that you can do something about it and you can take action. And if that's the case, then write down what steps you're going to take to resolve it. And it could be that some people say, I'm really worried about this, I'm really worried about this, I'm really worried about this. Have you done anything about it? No. Right, well then you're not that worried, are you? So let's park that, you can let that one go. If you are really worried and you can take steps, so it might be I'm worried about my financial security and perhaps, I don't know, I've got all my money tied up in Tesla because I haven't got any financial advice. And so their brain makes, oh, I'm really worried. Then the action steps behind that would be go and see somebody, go and get some professional advice, go and move your money into things that are safer, more distributed. You've got the spiel on that stuff.
Diversified, not distributed. That's what you're after, isn't it?
Thank you. Just help, Steve. I'm drowning in
the
financial speak. But yes, if there is a concern about the future that actually is relevant, that it is helpful to think about, that it is helpful to think about the future, then that will come out with actions. Take action. And if you don't take action or you don't want to take action, you don't need to worry about it because it's not that big a deal. So again, you can put that as unhelpful.
This is great advice, I think.
Oh, well, there's a really simple flow chart. Just Google.
It kind of sounds too easy.
But it is easy. The difficulty is consistency. So it's practicing.
So when you're going round, so this is personal experience. So I go round things in my head.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like to work stuff out.
Yeah.
And that does sort of make me feel better. But it comes back. And because I'm very bad at filing things.
The same problem comes back.
Yeah.
You mean you've got a problem, it goes around in your head, it spirals, but you think, what, do you get a solution from that? Or have you just spent a long time thinking about it with no actionable steps?
Well, I don't think there would be an actionable step, but it does make me think, that's okay because...
Right, so you've established that it's okay because, but then you start thinking about it again.
Yeah, and then I can't go back to, I had my okay because before, but what if?
Right. So this is where writing it down helps, because you've written it down, you've come out with your, I don't need to worry that because I have this base covered, X, Y, Z, don't need to take anything, covered off. So then when your brain brings it back, you can look in black and white and say, don't need to worry about that one. Or you can just, I have on repeat, unhelpful. Just because our brain gives us thoughts doesn't mean that we're supposed to listen to them. I mean, we all like to think that we're special and our brains are amazing, but the truth is that so many of our thoughts are completely unhelpful, and actually our brain isn't working on our side. One of the key skills to enjoying life is understanding what's helpful and what's not helpful. You don't have, and if it's unhelpful, don't listen to it.
STFU to your mind.
Yes. Well, exactly. So that might be yours. I quite like that one. Yeah, less polite than helpful or unhelpful, but that's the path that I'd go down. It could also be, there's something that just popped into my head, but now it's like popped out again. What did you just say before the STFU?
I can't remember.
I can't remember either. Gone.
The main thing you've been popping out today has been yawns.
I have been yawning a lot.
I've been yawning mainly when you meet me, which is concerning.
I'm just relaxing.
I won't take that on board personally. Or should I?
Oh, yeah, so just keep it in your head. Keep it in your head or write it down, one of the two, but go through the process. Can I do anything about it? No. If the answer is no, stop worrying about it. You can have a little flow chart. They're on the internet. They're really useful. Follow a flow chart, see it through. If you do keep on seeking external stimulation or external responses to make yourself feel better, you need to wean yourself off. You need to try and find your own ways to cure that, because that's not helpful either. It's okay to do it first time round, but you become reliant then on others as opposed to one problem should be gone through once. You don't need to go through it again. Oh, that's what I was saying, is that people's brains aren't helpful. You know, we don't need to listen to everything. Just because a thought pops in. I think we have this fear of missing out. What if I don't listen to that thought? What if that one does have common sense? If it's really that important, it will come back, and it will come back a lot. Let it go.
I have friends.
Really?
Yeah.
2?
That is true. Well, I say friends, loose acquaintances. Someone probably pays them to see me. I don't know.
The wife's giving them a backhander. Can you go out with him?
He's lonely. I'm not lonely, right? Anyway, his name's Nick, and he's, why worry? Why worry? You won't be listening. There's no point in worrying. Just don't worry. So he's like at one extreme, and it's very relaxing when he says that. And I might go, Nick, a bit worried about this. Why worry, Steve? What's going to happen? And he's right, because most of the time nothing happens.
Well, worrying only happens. We can't predict the future. It's a real human thing.
But if you look back at what you've been worried about, hardly ever has something actually happened.
Well, also, if you do worry about it, has that improved the outcome? Generally, it makes it worse.
Yeah.
It's much better to park the worrying. I know that's difficult, but professionals will help you with that, with hints and tips. And there's lots of coping mechanisms that we can do for anxiety and worrying. But yes, why worry? Live in the moment a lot more is better.
I would like to ask, are there people that like to worry?
Yes.
Is that a true thing?
Yeah.
I think this is my mama, probably.
So when there's always a benefit to any of our negative behaviours and negative habits, it might not be a conscious benefit. We call them secondary benefits. So people don't realise that there is a reason why they're doing these bad habits. And one of those unhelpful habits would be classed as worrying. It's not helpful, but there is a secondary benefit. And it might be it's a way to get attention. It's not that this person's necessarily going out to be an attention seeker. They don't wake up in the morning and think, oh, what can I worry about today to get attention? That's not what it is. But what's happened throughout their childhood or growing up is that when they've said, oh, I'm really worried about this, or what if this, or what if that, people then go, oh, don't worry, love, love, love. And their brain goes, oh, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
If we worry, if we start panicking, we get attention, we might get love, we might get a bit of TLC from people that care about us.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not encouraging people not to care about people that worry.
Or punching them.
But it does come back to what we spoke about at the beginning, is that if you keep on rewarding the people that keep coming back for the reassurance, they will just keep coming back because it's a secondary benefit as opposed to learning to self-soothe.
No way.
Yeah.
People don't see me like that. I'm really annoying.
Your voice is.
Yeah.
But
Just listen to this.
you're not that annoying.
But I'm like a treat, like a Twix bar.
I think your entertainment makes up for any annoyance.
That was a bit nasty there, Jess. That was a jibe about my voice, which you know I have issues about. That's the way to do it.
Oh, I hadn't put that together, but now that you've said it.
It's on my video on our
Punch and
website.
Judy.
Yeah, bloody cameraman did it.
Oh, it's mean.
Unasked.
I jibed and he went knife through the heart.
He's a very good videographer, or whatever they're called, actually. I used to work with him, that's why I did it. Anyway, I think this is important, right?
Yeah.
Because from my point of view, we want people to have a fun time, right? Largely because it's very, very boring for us when we meet people after 6 months or a year and we're doing their annual review, say, and all we're talking about is how their pixelated number on a screen has increased.
Yeah.
Right? And they're not using that money to increase their fun, but mainly increase the number of exciting stories we get to hear, where instead we just have to go, oh, it's gone up. This is why it's gone up, but, you know, it could go down tomorrow. Very, very dull for us. So we want exciting stories. We want to hear about their goals, ambitions, or dreams being fulfilled, or move them closer to that. It's purely for selfish reasons, so we have a more interesting work life. It's
actually because you do care and you do really encourage your clients to be able to live a very fulfilled life, not in 5 years' time, but in every moment, ideally, that they have, which is great.
So I think there's 3 reasons why you won't be able to spend money in future. Jess,
Yep.
What do you think they are? Go on, number 1.
I'm gonna go with that. I have no money. Let's be the worrier and say, because I've got no money to spend.
Oh no, I'm spending all this. I've been lost. There's nothing left. How am I going to survive? Yeah,
beans on toast.
Oh, beans on toast with cheese, naturally.
I got a chicken from Sainsbury's, £2.62 the other day.
Was it off?
No. It was like one of their special offers. I was thinking, I understand loss leaders in bread and milk and stuff, but a loss leading chicken. I thought, poor farmer. Anyway.
Why don't you think poor chicken?
Yeah, actually, that's very true. I don't want to think of the life that a £2.62 chickens had.
So in a neat segue, that's another reason why you might not be able to spend money, isn't it?
Because you ended up like the chicken. Not on the shelf at Sainsbury's.
Yeah, not wrapped in cling film. Or whatever it's called. Shrink wrapped.
Mm.
Yeah, you might be dead.
Yes.
It's a bit of a bummer being dead.
Can't spend the money. And you can't enjoy the money when you're dead.
You cannot. Can't do anything. All you could do, let's assume we're looking on down from heaven or up from hell, right? Depending how you've been in your life.
Yeah.
And you're watching what's happening to your money afterwards. What do you think might be happening?
What with my money? With my millions in the bank?
Yeah.
Billions. Yeah, billions. What's going to happen to my money? Well, the tax man is probably going to take a fair chunk of that, and that would probably make me end up like the chicken if I wasn't already.
Yeah. Why is it always a tax man?
Yeah, not a
Just
tax one
saying.
man.
Yeah, just saying.
Tax
Anyway,
person.
yeah, because it's a negative stereotype, that, isn't it?
Oh, about time.
Yeah.
You're right, though.
I am right.
I feel really bad now.
Always.
Call it out. Well, good job on calling it out, Steve.
Right.
The tax person took a big chunk of it.
Well, yeah, HMRC took some.
Mm.
You know, don't have to gender it.
No.
So HMRC has had some, and when you inherit or win money, because you haven't earned it, you spend it a lot more freely.
Oh,
So you'd be looking from heaven or hell, going, "What's happening with my cash?"
what's happening with my moolah?
And whoever gets it, they're going to be having a lovely time. Fast cars, fast women,
But
and
you
fast
won't get
men.
to see any of that, though, will you?
No, but they're doing it. So they're doing this stuff, frittering, even if you aren't.
So they will fritter the money.
Yeah, they do.
When you were unable to.
Well, unable to bring yourself to.
Yes.
That definitely happens. Now, the biggest of these three things, we've had death so far. We've had not having enough money. The biggest thing, I think, is it's an issue where you could have spent money, but you are now no longer able to spend it, is if you've had a health event.
Oh.
So every day we're getting unhealthier, except for you, Jess, because you're getting so fit over the last year.
Yeah.
Right? But we're all on a downward slope as a general rule, aren't we?
Yeah. That's one of the reasons that I started going, had a wake up and thought, need to get better, because I don't want this downward slope to be fast. I want it to be as slow as possible so I can live my life for as long as possible.
That's it, mate. So this is so important. Your health span, not your lifespan.
Oh, nice.
Nice. So health span is when you're fit, healthy, enough to do what you want, right?
Yeah.
When something bad's happened to you and you can't do it anymore, and you're still looking at your pixelated pound figure in your bank or investments, then you say, "Oh," followed by the expletive of your choice.
Yeah.
I'd probably use the B word. Right? But whatever you want.
Okay.
And that, my dear friends, that is regret.
Yeah, that's such a horrible word.
It is horrendous. I hate this moment because I talk about this a lot with our clients all the time, and it will happen to some of them, and it does, and it has, and we have eye contact. They know and I know, and we're both thinking the same thing, and we're both thinking, "Oh,
I wish I'd done" is so much worse than what if.
It's horrible. It's the worst feeling. I think that is the crappiest thing about my job, actually, because I love it generally.
Yeah, it's when you've got really great people that haven't fulfilled.
Yeah.
And then it's too late to be able to enjoy all the crops that they've sown, seed that they've sown, harvest it. Yeah.
Whatever
Sad times.
farming analogy you want works
I'm
there.
clearly onto farming this episode. No idea why.
Well, it's important because of the changes in agricultural relief for inheritance tax reasons.
That's true. That's a big one.
And death.
I've got a few friends that are farmers, and they are, yeah.
So it's really horrible that when people die, that's horrendous too. It ain't like that. But if they've died and they've had a real good crack, I think they live life on their terms. That's a nice thing.
Yeah.
They've done all they can. Okay. Whereas when you think, I could have, that's not so great. Okay.
I wish I would have. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad. So there are some things that we can do as financial planners to help with this. So I think I touched on earlier, we can generate an income. Interestingly, people are more willing to spend guaranteed incomes than they are a capital sum that's in their bank.
So you can arrange that a monthly amount almost goes into their bank account every month as their salary would have done.
That's it. And commonly, this might be on retirement. You might get a fixed income for life for a short-term period where it's definitely going to happen for forever. on the one hand, people don't like this because there's not much flexibility. On the other, it does mean you are more free to spend it.
But you can probably build in both,
psychologically.
can't you?
You can do both, whatever you want, whatever you can live
Whatever
with
works for you.
is what
But I
works
do like that
best.
idea, because quite often the way I get people to shift their mindset around going from saving to spending is, rather than seeing it as spending their savings, they need to see that actually they're spending their salary. At one point or other, that money that went into a pension was money that they earned, was a salary. And all that's happening is that you are now saying, oh, I'll take that salary now. So it's very much changing that mindset from...
Well, this is a difficult thing. People, you go without as a younger person to save for the future. And then guess what? The future comes, but you can't change out of that saving mode.
Oh.
So you've built a nice little pile of dosh. And then you were supposed to spend that down. That is the point. The point was not to save it and go without so you can never spend it, was it?
Yes.
Get back to your mind when you're in your 20s and 30s and think, why did I do that?
So you talk about the finances and then remind me that I'll talk about the plan and how to turn it from data into feelings. Go on.
So with like financial planning, we can show you statistics and proofs and highlight how you might be incorrect in your assumptions.
Yeah.
How they might be irrational.
Yeah.
I ain't got a problem with being irrational. Like, we're human. It's all right.
Mm.
You know, let's not take all emotion out of everything. That's the fun bit. But some people do. But statistics and that, you know, don't kill a feeling, does it?
They don't. So now that you've said that, I'll come in with my little segue. Is that statistics don't give a feeling, but what does is stories. So when you give someone statistics, when you say this is the amount you can have every year, and let's divide it up, and then you ask them, what will that look like when you spend it? What will it feel like? What will you do with it? Where will you be? What will the weather be like? Then it brings it to life, and we change it from a statistic to then a story. And with a story comes a feeling. Oh, how will it feel to have, you know, the car that you've always wanted, or to go skiing, or have the holiday you've always wanted, or I want to go on a horse safari in Africa.
A horse safari?
Yeah. So I just need to make sure I'm
to
healthy.
Look at horses or on horses?
No, on a horse, go on a safari. Like, my face lights up at the thought of it. Because number one, I love animals. Number two, I love horses. So even if I don't see any animals whilst on horseback, and also, can you imagine the adrenaline? Seeing an animal on horseback, like one that might get you, better than a car. Like, oh, woo!
What if he gets eaten by a lion?
Then at least it'll eat the horse and not me.
Don't love horses that much.
Don't love horses that much. That's not going to happen, otherwise they wouldn't do horse safaris. Anyway.
No, they did. Is that on a zebra?
When I talk about a horse safari, it makes me feel something. It makes me feel excited. I can feel my little happy bones start tingling.
You are, look at your little face.
So when, instead of talking about data and statistics, what does that mean to you? What does this mean to you? What will it look like? What will it feel like? When you are sitting there and you're planning with your partner or your kids or your brother or whoever about your future, about your family, about your retirement, don't just look at facts and figures. What does this mean to me? How can I bring it to life? And that way, you know, plan with your children how they're going to spend it, what they're going to do with it, or what you can do together. That then creates feeling, and feeling creates action.
And then you do it and you have the best time.
Right, that was my segue. Yes.
That was awesome. Do you know what? I've already touched on my worst bit about my job. The best bit is every now and then,
when someone comes in and says they've been on horse safari.
Well, not a horse safari.
Have you had any of those yet?
Never heard of a horse safari.
I want to do it.
No one has.
Oh.
But they come in, or I get a little message going, I did this because of you.
That's brilliant.
It is.
That's what
nice.
we want.
That's happened.
Their inner glow has grown
Quite a lot. Sometimes if I see them out and about, you know, of an evening, might have had a few drinks, mightn't they?
Or after park run.
And they might get on a stool and say stuff like, this man has changed my life.
You know what? I know that has happened. Yeah, that has happened.
Not just him, though. That's happened several times. Never bought me a pint, though, did they?
Wow. You know,
Yeah,
they're
they did.
spending money, then there's wasting it.
Right. Now we go into Sockology.
And now for Sockology, where Jess and Steve review types of sock and how your socks affect your mood.
Okay, Sockology. So today, Jess, you'll be pleased to know you don't have to get your feet in the air for the video. Everyone else will be pleased to know that as well, because we've had someone send in a picture,
Yay!
which you'll now see on screen. Now,
These
this is...
happy socks.
Look at that. This is a tall man that sent this in. Look how far that sock is extending up his calf.
That should surely be a short person.
Yeah, no,
If
but it's
they're a
good.
short person, the sock would extend further up their calf than if they were a tall person.
Oh, yeah, I'm saying how this could be more of a stocking rather than a sock.
Okay.
It's very high anyway. I like that. I want to know the brand.
I want to know the brand because they look like socks that I would put on and it would lighten my mood. It would lift my mood.
Now, he sent this in and he said these socks, which are pink and covered in what he said are dodos, make him feel naive, which obviously they were. That's why they ended up extinct. But the term is dead as a dodo, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I hope this person's still alive.
But I don't think they're dodos. I think they're flamingos.
I would say they're a flamingo.
Yeah, because they've even got that one footy thing.
Yes, they have.
And dodos didn't have legs that long. So I don't know who sent it in, but they might have to rethink what those socks mean to them now that they know they're not dodos.
They're a flamingo, I would say. But also it is a funny coloured flamingo. But a dodo was grey, wasn't it?
Didn't have a long neck either.
No, it was short.
And didn't have long legs.
So, sir, thanks for your socks. It's great they make you feel naive, which obviously you have been because it's a flamingo. It's great that it isn't a dodo. You're not dead as a dodo, because taking pictures of dead people's socks on, that would be frowned upon, wouldn't it?
Those socks would very much make you feel alive.
They would.
They would.
They'd make you dance.
Yeah, like, way.
They'd make you stand at 1 foot. So that is great. Please, listeners, send in pictures, because it's costing me and Jess a fortune in new socks.
Which I quite like if you're buying.
You did send me some the other day, didn't you?
Yeah.
Which they've sold out. I did try and buy them.
Oh, they were lovely.
They were good. It was the end, wasn't it?
Scalloped edges.
Scalloped. That was the word.
It's like socks are really in fashion.
They are. Well, ever since we've started
But
this segment.
Actually, as wear sandals and socks, but not just gym socks now, because that was already a problem. But now we've gone to posh, like high heels with funky socks. Right, wrap it up. Stop me talking about socks, because we know.
Stop talking about socks. Let's talk more wearing.
More wearing.
So, everyone, thanks for listening today. We're going to have another episode in a couple of weeks. Not decided what we'll do that on. Please message us when you're writing a review saying what you'd like to hear Jess and I talking about, or if you'd just like us to stop. Either would be good. I've had someone come to us and say, I listen to your podcast. These are the things I need help with. So even if it's just one person, I think we're doing a great job.
Yeah, we'll take one.
I'm happy with that.
2 would be great, but 1 is fantastic. We'll take 1.
It's like that story, isn't it, about the kid with the starfish. Have you heard that?
No.
Kid's walking up the beach, and he's bending down and picking. There's loads of starfish on the beach, washed up, and he's chucking them in. And there's thousands of them. He's chucking them back into the water. And this old fella goes, "What are you doing that for? There's thousands of them. You'll never be able to help." And kid bends down, picks one up, chucks it in, and goes, "I help that one."
Yes.
That's what we're about.
Yeah.
Anyway, so retirement's a tough time. You're spending your money. If you're not able to,
spend the money that you've got. Enjoy it.
Enjoy yourself. It's later than you think. Certainly is tonight.
There's a song in there somewhere.
There is. Spend your money before it's too late and you have regrets. If you're unsure, we need to find a way of how to do it. If you're doing everything you want to do, that is awesome. If you've still got loads of money left after that, then you help the people you want to leave it to. Help them whilst you're alive.
Yeah, help them whilst you can enjoy watching, be a part of that, all those things. Fantastic.
Which is a massive source of increased levels of well-being.
Yes, huge.
Okay. If you need help with this, any of this, please contact us. Please leave a review because we want to spread the word of
I was
our.
going to say because we're desperate.
We're not desperate.
We're not desperate. We've got at least 2.
In fact, I'm going to press a button now to get us a review message.
Steve and Jess would be really grateful if you'd leave them a review on wherever you listen to your podcasts. If they run a star system, please give Juggling Mind and Money more stars than the Milky Way.
Okay, so if you can't leave a review, send us a picture of your socks. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time. Goodbye. Say goodbye, Jess.
Bye.
Jess is playing with a dinosaur, everyone. That's why she wasn't on point.